I love the ads where people are watching something that Donald Trump has said or done, and then they're reacting to it in real time.
I was watching The View live when it happened, and I was just like, it's going to be an ad. It's going to be an ad. Welcome to Political Experts React, where we break down political ads in media, explain what the people behind them are trying to accomplish, and decide whether or not they did a good job. I'm Dan Pfeiffer, former communications director for Barack Obama. And joining me today is the former senior advisor to Vice President Kamala Harris and co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, Symone Sanders Townsend. This episode of Political Experts React is brought to you by ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol, your first drink for a better tomorrow. Symone, welcome to Political Experts React. How are you?
I am well. Good to be here.
How are you feeling with less than 2 weeks to go?
Oh, Lord. I am feeling like I needed to be Thanksgiving, okay?
I appreciate that you're so hopeful that the election will be over by Thanksgiving.
Yes. I'm trying to speak it into existence, okay?
Good. Well, let's start with an ad from the Kamala Harris campaign.
Of 100 Republicans who worked in national security for Presidents Reagan, both Bushes, and for President Trump, now endorsing Harris for president.
She came up as a prosecutor, an attorney general, into the Senate. She has the kind of character that's going to be necessary in the presidency.
Vice President Harris is standing in the breach at a critical moment in our nation's history. We have a shared commitment as Americans to do what's right for this country. This year, I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Former generals, secretaries of defense, secretaries of the Army, Navy, and Air Force, CIA directors, and National Security Council leaders under Democratic and Republican presidents, Republican members of Congress, and even former Trump administration officials agree there's only one candidate fit to lead our nation, and that's Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
So there's been some consternation and concern about the fact that the Harris campaign is so aggressively targeting Republicans here at the end. As we are recording this, she is on a tour with Liz Cheney and some other Republicans. What's your reaction to the ad and the broader strategy?
So in terms of the ad, I think it's very important. And while I know that the ad is supposed to target Republicans, right, I think it's effective in also helping people visualize the vice president as the commander in chief, as the president. Because she will be the first, people have to wrap their mind around that. They don't have another vision of that, is that of an American president that also happens to be a woman, let alone a woman of color. And in this particular role, people have to visualize them as a leadership, as a commander, even in the role of the vice presidency. So photos with generals and service members, right? Seeing her salute, seeing her looking strong and in command, all of those things matter. And then having the generals in that video, military officials, national security officials, showing that they've worked for all of these other previous presidents. All of those things go to a vision that say, hey, okay, these people know what they're talking about. She looks the part, and imagery is very important, whether people want to agree with it or not. I'm somebody that doesn't believe it's either or. I believe you have to do both and I think that for a while, the campaign was doing too much, trying to get moderate Republicans or Republicans that just don't like Donald Trump, and not enough about speaking to the base. And I believe in this closing argument, the balance is much more there, and I think it's going to be effective.
The ad looks very similar to a lot of ads that President Obama ran in 2008, facing a very similar challenge when you don't look like, in his case, the previous 43 presidents, in this case, the previous 46 presidents. There's a higher hurdle. And I think that the hurdle is even higher for a woman than a man. And so this ad, it got a lot of press coverage because it was like Liz Cheney and Republicans and the printed words on the screen talking about Trump being unfit. But it's really about validating her as a leader. We can't look at each individual ad in and of itself. You have to look at it as part of the overall advertising narrative of the campaign. I agree with you that it is all the above, right? In a race this close, she's got to be getting disaffected Republicans. She needs to get disaffected younger men. She needs to maximize her vote share with college-educated suburbanites. She's got to go get working class white women whose husbands are almost certainly voting for Donald Trump, but they vehemently disagree with Trump on abortion and other issues. She's got to do all the above. And that's an immense challenge for the campaign. The other thing is she is being smeared in the most offensive, aggressive ways possible as a radical leftist out of touch with American values. And one thing that makes you look more in touch with American values is a bunch of Republicans in general supporting you. Because with Stanley McChrystal and the Cheney family really support someone as crazy and out of touch as the Trump ads say? No, I can't believe this, but we're less than 2 weeks away from the election. That means many things, but one thing it means is that you were almost done with having to listen to me beg you to smash the subscribe button. Honestly, I'm embarrassed every time I do it. A little piece of my very limited dignity dies every time I do it. It really does help the larger cause. So please smash that subscribe button. The next ad we're going to look at is from the Trump campaign.
A flood of illegals, skyrocketing prices, global chaos, and Kamala wouldn't change a thing.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Nothing will change with Kamala. More weakness, more war, more welfare for illegals, and even more taxes. Only President Trump cut middle-class taxes, and only President Trump will do it again.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
I do find it triggering to see his giant signature, which was really omnipresent in our lives for 4 years, and we haven't really seen since then. What do you think of the ad?
Okay, the imagery, it's dark and ominous and we're trying to scare people here. I'm struck by she's not going to change anything. And I mean, they're using her own words, which in that instance, these are the kind of ads that, as you know, these are effective because it's like, they're not saying this is what she said. She is saying it. Now, it depends on how you feel about how things are going and if you've heard anything else that she said. They can run every single ad that they would like, but all it takes is a tap on the shoulder to remind somebody about the pandemic. And everybody knows somebody that died during the pandemic. Like, all it takes is a tap on the shoulder to remind somebody about the tweets and the erraticness of it all. I do think, though, that this ad does speak to a certain subset of people, which is why what she's doing right now, literally sitting with Liz Cheney, surrounding herself with Republicans at different moments, actual Republicans, not people who say, oh, I'm no longer a Republican, I left the party. Like, there are actual Republicans that she's surrounding herself with that can inoculate against things like this. But her saying, I can't think of anything I would do different, is definitely fodder for the people.
My general take is that Kamala Harris has run a nearly flawless campaign in terms of her public appearances. Her speeches, her debates, the interviews she's done, her rallies, like, she doesn't make mistakes. Considering the fact that she went from eating breakfast as a vice president and number 2 on the ticket to, by the time lunch came around, she was essentially the Democratic nominee, and then running from a standing start and having to do all of this. Like, what she has pulled off is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. That moment on The View is her worst moment on the campaign thus far. It's a gaffe. You know, I remember, like, working for Obama, we had several of these. Clinging to guns and religion would be a good example. I was watching The View live when it happened, and I was just like, it's going to be an ad. It's going to be an ad. And I was flying across country a couple weeks ago, and I was watching football on the DirecTV the whole way, and I saw that ad like 15 times over the 4 hours. Now, it is hard to argue that she is just like Joe Biden.
For many reasons.
Yes. I mean, she doesn't. It's just everything about her suggests change. Now, is it enough change? In the right kind of change? That's for the voters to decide over the coming weeks here. She really has done an amazing job of becoming a change candidate. She's the vice president to the incumbent president who has low approval ratings, and 2/3 of the country think we're headed in the wrong direction. She's basically, in the most recent New York Times stand-up poll, almost tied with Trump on change. But there is a certain set of voters who are looking for change, and they're deciding whether Trump's the right change with everything that comes with it. The chaos, the tweets, the pandemic, but there's lower prices and just a general sense of stability, which seems crazy, but it's nostalgia for pre-pandemic America. And then there's what Kamala Harris projects going forward. And that's kind of the decision voters are going to have to make. And that's the question that Trump wants people asking, and this ad does that. All right, people, I'm here to tell you about a game-changing product I use every single time before I have a drink. It's called ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. All right, folks, we're less than 2 weeks away from Election Day. And if you were like me and you're riding the roller coaster, living and dying with every new poll, there's a good chance you probably need a strong, stiff drink at the end of the night. But since I am required by professional obligation to podcast my way through all of it, I'm glad I've got ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. I don't get the opportunity to ignore the polls, so I may need a drink or two over the next 2 weeks. Go to ZBiotics.com/experts to get 15% off your first order when you use experts at checkout. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Thanks to ZBiotics for sponsoring this video and for our good times. Okay, the last ad we're going to watch is from Future Forward, a super PAC supporting Kamala Harris.
I know 20 of you and you're rich as hell. We're going to give you tax cuts. We're going to pay.
I'm not rich as hell. I'm the one that really needs the break, not the people that are already rich and have the money. The 1% don't serve anybody but themselves. So for them to get a tax break, no, that's not cool. Kamala Harris is going to make billionaires pay their fair share, and she's going to cut taxes for working people like me. I'm Buddy, and I'm not rich as hell, and I'm voting for Kamala Harris.
FFPAC is responsible for the content of this ad.
This is one of my favorite ads of the cycle, but Symone, what do you think?
I love the ads where people are watching something that Donald Trump has said or done, and then they're reacting to it in real time, because I firmly believe that most people, again, not us who are tuned in all the time, but most people have not really heard many of the most recent things that Donald Trump is saying, the extremist, the crazy, the inflammatory, and even, what he said to the billionaires, the rich people, about I'm going to make you richer, or the enemy within, or his inexplainable policy on childcare, if you will. So playing his sound for people and then watching them react in real time, like, what, is great. I like the ad. I think it is an answer, frankly, to what we just saw, right? Donald Trump's ad tells me that he's going to cut taxes for middle-class Americans, but this ad says that he's going to do it for billionaires. And he's saying in his own words, I'm going to make you rich as hell. So I do think in that sense it is effective. And so somebody like who was a Trump-Biden voter, who you want to now be a Harris voter, showing them, again, Donald Trump's own words, that he's not fighting for you. I know you maybe thought he was fighting for you, but he's not. And here he is making his own case saying that he isn't. I think is very effective.
I have been stomping around my house screaming about this moment ever since it was first reported. Telling a group of billionaires at a fundraiser if they give you money, you will cut their taxes is the single biggest campaign gaffe in American history. It makes the Mitt Romney's 47% moment look like a speed bump. It is nothing compared to this. It is everything people hate about politics. It is Trump's greatest vulnerability, is that he really cares only about rich people like himself. And we've been waiting for this to be in the public discourse, because just the way the media environment works now, it being reported in the Washington Post and this clip circulating online doesn't get to real voters. So you have to spend real money to get in front of people. Future Forward is spending more money on this particular ad than any other ad this whole cycle, and they have $700 million. So that is a lot of money on this ad. And I agree with you, having people react to what Trump says, it's relatable because it's like what we did for 4 years, is he would say something crazy, you'd kind of look at him and be like, what the fuck? That doesn't happen as much now, because for most people, he's faded to the background in a way he never was from the moment he came down the escalator until January 6th. And so returning people to that moment of like, oh, this guy said this thing, and then reacting to it, like I think that helps put it in front of people. This is so hard for the Harris campaign because there's so many things they have to do in the last 2 weeks here because
no time.
And they had no time to start with. They're doing this in 4 months. And the question that really matters is who's going to fight for you? Who's going to fight for rich people and corporations? Because if she doesn't have to beat Donald Trump on who would better manage the economy or all of that because of his faux billionaire credibility, whatever, but if she can be seen as the one fighting for the middle class, she can pull some of those voters that we have been losing who they don't really like Trump, but they're concerned about the price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of groceries, just the general idea that they're not getting ahead in this economy. And this ad goes right to that.
I think the interviews and the appearances that the vice president is doing is also very important because they are using some of those and also the great moments, clipping it and making it an ad, whether it's the moment from the debate or I'm sure there's something that's going to come out of this town hall with Liz Cheney. For a person that is like, I'm not going to decide until the last minute, anything can change their mind.
Symone, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck surviving these next 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Great to be with you.
Good to be with you, and we will see you on the other side.
Thanks for watching these ads and videos with us. If you have anything you'd like us to break down, let us know in the comments. See you all next time.